Welcome to the Rotary Foundation Basics for Club Foundation Chairs for District 5440. I'm Jim Epstein, the incoming District Rotary Foundation Chair, and with me today is Nancy Pettis, the current District Rotary Foundation Chair, and the two of us are going to do this presentation. First, I'd like to say who this training is for and what we're going to cover. The training is for Club Foundation Chairs and Club Foundation Committee members. And we're going to cover the basics of the activities that Club Foundation Committee members and chairs will be involved in. But we won't cover best practices because that's something that's really better covered in online discussion groups or in district assemblies where you can chat with people face to face or online. You can see we have a fairly full agenda here. We're going to start with the Club Foundation Committee Chair's main responsibilities. And then we're going to cover quite a bit on the donations and donation process and recognizing donors. Then we're going to talk about educating club members, helping set goals, and how the foundation chair is the point contact for grant information. And we'll end up with a discussion of the resources that are available to you. So let's start with the Club Foundation Committee's main responsibilities. They can be broken down into four main parts: educate, participate, donate, and celebrate. In terms of educating, it's very important for you to explain to the club members how the Rotary Foundation works. And it's important to indicate that the projects that the Rotary Foundation does are very important in the local communities as well as in international communities. I think a lot of people, when they think of the foundation, they think only of international. But they do a lot of work in local communities as well through district grants and also through other methods. Even the international activities of the foundation have a large effect on your local community, especially things like peace and conflict resolution, because almost everybody has some relative or friend that's been involved in the military, or in terms of disease prevention and polio, because these things can easily be transmitted from any country to any country. So even though there's a lot of international activities that the foundation does, these can affect your local community as well. So some of the people who are focused on international or focused on local still will benefit from the Rotary Foundation international activities. The next thing is the participate, and people are much more likely to donate if they're participating in the foundation activities. And participation can take place in various manners. District grants is one of them. Centennial grants is something we're having this year, which is a local service project under $1,000 from the district. Global grants. One that's not known as well is you can mentor scholars. The district awards scholarships each year, and they're always looking for clubs to be mentors. It doesn't require any money from the club. It just requires you to sponsor that person and have them give presentations at your club and give them advice and just sort of support them. And you can also be involved in polio events, either doing a polio event in your community or going on an international polio immunization day. In terms of donating, the majority of the activities for the Club Foundation Committee is helping with the process. One of the main things that is important with the donation process is to make it simple for the club members to understand. Quite often, there's a lot of potential places they can donate their money. And when this happens, sometimes people hesitate or don't donate because they can't make a decision. So one thing that we found in our club was that it's Much simpler if you say there's two places to donate. One is the local foundation, and the other is the Rotary Foundation. And then we have committees that decide within those where they break down the money. So this may not be the best thing for your club, but it is one way to do it. But it is key to for the foundation committee to simplify the process, and by making it easier to understand, and also to help with the forms for donating. So that is one of the key roles of the foundation committee. And we don't want to forget celebrating, because that's important to celebrate your accomplishment, celebrate individual donor contributions, celebrate the activities that your club has done with foundation funds such as district grants, and also celebrate reaching goals. I think that's important, because when you set goals and you reach them, there's a certain amount of satisfaction, and I think that's important for the foundation committee to emphasize. So that's all I have on the main responsibilities. I'd now like to move on to how the donations are used. And here again, it's important for the people in the club to understand how their donations are being used, because if they don't understand that, they're going to hesitate in donating. There's really 4 places that you can donate. One is to a specific global grant project. That's pretty obvious. The annual fund, I'm going to come back to that. That's a second place to donate. The endowment or permanent fund is usually done through estate planning and wills, although not necessarily, but that's typically how it is. And then the interest that is accrued on your donation, you can specify how you want that interest to be directed, and it can go to the annual fund of your district. It can go to a specific area of focus associated with a global grant, such as peace and conflict resolution or maternal health and child health, or it could also be directed to peace centers. The 4th area is the Polio Plus Fund. The interesting thing about this is that all donations by Rotarians are matched 2-to-1 by the Gates Foundation until 2018. And these funds all go towards Polio Plus grants. So let me return to the annual fund, because it's a little more complicated. When you donate to the annual fund, those funds are used, that's the funds that are used for district grants and global grants that your club can initiate. 25% of the money donated by your club to the annual fund comes back for district grants. 25% comes back for global grants that your club can initiate. The other 50% goes to the World Fund, and the World Fund has 4 places that money is used. It comes back as the Rotary Foundation part of your global grant. It can also go to peace centers, Polio Plus, or other Rotary international initiatives. So I think that covers pretty much how the funds are used and where you can donate them. So I'd now like to turn it over to Nancy to talk about the donation process.
As Jim just mentioned, one of the important things that donors must decide is where they actually want their money to go. We do need to remember that Paul Harris credit is only given for donations to the annual fund or polio, and only donations to the annual fund count toward a club's goals. Now, the club may also have set a goal for polio or the endowment fund, but those would be 3 separate goals. There is a box on the contribution form, which we'll be looking at later, which needs to be checked to specify where the funds go. And you can see on the slide there the places that you can check. Hey, Jim, next.
Okay.
Your role is really to make sure that members have all the correct information they need to fill out the contribution form. And one of the important reports that we'll be reviewing and that you need to look at is the club recognition summary, because it has the various numbers that are needed for that contribution form. You also want to try to get members in the habit of checking their own donor history on a regular basis, and they do that on the Rotary International website. We have 90 days to make a correction in case something is credited wrong, but no one in the club will be able to know whether it's been credited wrong. It's the member himself or herself who needs to check their donor history to make sure that money is going where they wish it to go. Next. So if you want to really take a look at a bigger picture and monitor the club's progress, you can get some information that is not available in a report that clubs can access, but that the District Rotary Foundation Committee Chair can access, and that's called the monthly contribution form. So it gives a picture of the entire district, but for each club, it gives the information on the goals, the progress toward the goal in the annual fund, the per capita, whether other funds and monies have gone to the endowment fund or grants or polio. Rotary Club Central on the Rotary International website allows members to monitor progress toward goals for the club also, but that would be your club only. Next. I mentioned the club recognition summary as the source of important information to put on the contribution form. This is a sample of the club recognition summary. You can look at the categories at the top for some valuable information about your club. You can also see on the very first line under the solid blue bar whether your club has any recognition points, and these points can be used by the club to encourage members to contribute. It might be offered in terms of a challenge or a match concept, but these points are available. They just have to be used in amounts of 100 or more. Now look clear over to the left, you'll see the member ID numbers. Since this is an actual club recognition summary, I blocked the names, and they're under the black bar there. And you can see that they're a club member. You can see where they currently are in the recognition amount, whether they're a Paul Harris Fellow, when they became a Paul Harris Fellow, the points that they have available, their last contribution date, and where the funds were credited. So as I mentioned, this is a very important report and will give you the numbers. Please note that the small black box right above the heavy blue bar is the club number, and that's necessary for the contribution form also. Next. This is a form that you can use as your club's foundation chair or committee member. It's a very quick way to check whether the members of your club have given this year. You can see if they've contributed last Rotary year, if they were or are currently a sustaining member, which means that they're giving at a level of $100 per year. And finally, you can see if they're a Paul Harris Society member and if they're signed up for Rotary Direct, which is the automatic donations. So this report gives you a real quick look at who in the club has already donated this year. Next. This is a very valuable picture history of giving in your club. You can see your club's annual fund goal, what was actually contributed to the annual fund, as well as total contributions, which would include polio, the endowment fund, and donations to a grant. Look closely and you'll see the per capita figure, and this is the best way to see if your club's contributions are rising and falling because it automatically takes into account membership. All of this information gives a good picture of the contributions to the Rotary Foundation over a 5-year period. Next. So let's just kind of summarize what these reports can help provide for you. The various numbers that you need, dates on contributions, where those contributions went, how people were making progress toward their Paul Harris recognition point information, who's already donated this year, and then you can have the 5-year history. Look for all of these reports on Rotary Club Central. Okay, next. Now I mentioned the contribution form, and we're going to take a look at that, but there are some other forms that are used for donations. The most widely used, however, is the regular contribution form. The first 4 forms listed here are used primarily for donations to the annual fund, although the contribution form also allows the donor to specify any funds in the Rotary Foundation. The benefactor and legacy bequest forms are for the endowment form, and the last form listed allows a club or individual to make a gift donation. Next. This is the actual Rotary Foundation contribution form. If you'll notice on the right, I've highlighted some areas. So that top part is for the individual Rotarian information, and that's where you need the identification numbers, the club number, the district number also. Next, you choose where you want the money to go. So you can see the various boxes there. Section 3 is important, and that's where you list how you're making the contribution, whether it's cash or credit card or a check. This section also allows members to sign up for automatic contributions, and you can set how frequent and the amount. So please encourage members to sign up for that. And the last real important piece of information on this form is that if a donation is completing a Paul Harris Fellow or completing a multiple Paul Harris Fellow, you have to order the recognition items. Rotary does not automatically send those. So that's the place where you order the recognition items and specify where it goes. Next. On the back of that contribution form is this form, which is the recognition transfer request. This is for when you as an individual Rotarian or the club can use its recognition points and assign them to another person. Please note the information on the side, which will give you some guidance and a reminder that it has to be in increments of $100 or more. If individual recognition points are being given, then the member signs. If club recognition points are being given, then the club president signs. And once again, there is a place here, and if the donation of recognition points is going to complete a Paul Harris so that you can order the recognition items. Next. Some clubs collect money from their members and then send it in. And this is the form that's used when the club has collected those funds and is getting ready to send the money in. We also have some clubs that do a fundraiser and use the proceeds from that fundraiser to bolster individual donations. So the funds from the fundraiser may be allocated to individual club members, and this is, once again, is the form to be used. So identification numbers and names go in there, as well as the amount of money. But the important thing to remember here is that only one check can go in with this form, and it's usually the club check. Please note that this is not a real clean paper trail for the IRS because the funds have gone into the club, usually been mingled with general funds, and then come out. Another reason why we like people to make individual donations and make them automatically, but this provides another avenue for submitting funds to the Rotary Foundation. Next. I mentioned that Section 3 on the contribution form allows for you to set up automatic deductions. This is another form that does exactly the same thing. It's called Rotary Direct. Automatic donations are Rotary Direct. So if you don't want to use the contribution form, a Rotarian can use this to set up their automatic contributions. Next. This is one of the forms that allows for contributions or commitments to the endowment form, and it's the benefactor gift form. A benefactor is giving to the endowment fund at a level between $1,000 and $9,999. That's usually done by adding a codicil to the will, and then the funds are sent to Rotary upon your death. Next. Many people also give to the endowment fund at a higher level. This form is used $10,000 and more. There are various ways that you can see up at the top that are all the estate planning tools that people might use that can be used also to make these larger donations into the Rotary Foundation. Rotary staff is readily available to assist with members who want to use some of those estate planning tools. If you just want to do a codicil, that's fine too, but do remember that Rotary staff is available to assist, and you do not have to try and help your members puzzle through givings to the foundation in this way. Okay, next. And this is the final form. It's not used terribly often, but it is a convenient way to make a gift as a memorial or a tribute to a person. You would use this form. Okay, next.
Yeah, okay, so now I'd like to talk a little bit about the recognition of individual donors. Excuse me, there's a system for recognizing donors, and it consists of different donation levels and points. The donation levels start out from the basic one of every Rotarian every year, which is where a Rotarian every year gives any amount, small amount, to the Rotary annual fund. And it goes all the way up to the Arch Clumpf level, which is a accumulated combined donation of $250,000 or more. So in between there, one of the more common ones is the sustaining member, where each member gives $100 per year to the annual fund. And the next level above that is the Paul Harris Society, where $1,000 per year is given to the annual fund. So that is also an important level of donating to the foundation. You get a Paul Harris Fellow recognition when your combined donation is between $1,000 and $10,000, and those Paul Harris Fellows come in multiple levels. You know, Paul Harris is $1,000, Paul Harris plus one is $2,000, and so forth. When you get above $9,909, you become a major donor, and you become a major donor at various different levels as well, all the way up to the Arch Clumpf level. And Nancy has talked already about the benefactor and bequest society, which are testamentary donations, usually through wills or codicils or other ways of donating life insurance and so forth. And there's the two different levels there. The benefactor level is $1,000 to $9,999, and bequest society is over $10,000. So that's the different levels. Now, there's a point system associated with donating, which is basically very simple. You get 1 point for every dollar that you you donate to the annual fund, Polio Plus, or for a specific grant. So what can you do with these points? Well, after achieving 1,000 points, you qualify for a Paul Harris Fellow, and for every 1,000 points beyond that, you get a Paul Harris Fellow Plus award. These awards can be given to individuals. You can award your Paul Harris Fellow to family members, which is quite common, but you can also award them to individuals in the community that are making significant contributions to the community. And I think this is a good thing to do because it also ties the club in with the community. Um, it recognizes people that possibly people you've been working with on projects and so forth. So this is a very good way to use your recognition points. Another good way to do recognition points is through certificates of appreciation. Again, you need 1,000 points to get a certificate of appreciation, but these can be awarded to businesses or organizations other than individuals. So again, this is also a good way to get involved with the community and show that Rotary appreciates their contribution to the community, and typically that helps strengthen partnerships between Rotary and outside organizations. Now, one question that often comes up is about transferring points. You can transfer points. You can transfer them between one from one Rotarian to another, and you can transfer them from clubs to Rotarians and from districts to Rotarians. And people often say, well, how does a club or a district get recognition points? Well, they get them the same way that individuals do, by making contributions to the Rotary Foundation. So if the club, for example, has a fundraiser and donates to the Polio Plus fund, the club gets recognition points, and same with the district. So that's another important thing, is that these points can be transferred. And another interesting way of using these points is if someone is close to getting a Paul Harris Fellow in 1 year, the club can talk to that person and say, well, if you're short by $200 to get a Paul Harris Fellow this year, we'll contribute $100 from our points if you contribute $100. So this is a good way to get people to earn their Paul Harris Fellow and to use the points. And you'll find that a lot of clubs have a lot of points and they don't really use them. They're just sitting there. And it's good to come up with a plan on how you want to use these points, because they don't do any good if they just sit there, and they can be very beneficial in your fundraising as well as partnership strengthening efforts. So that's recognizing individual donors. Clubs can also be recognized for their participation. And this is something that's done either through the Rotary Foundation or through, sometimes the district does a governor's citation. So for example, if every member of, if your club has over $100 per capita giving, and you have 100% participation where every member gives at least something, the club will earn an Every Rotarian Every Year Club Award. Another award that's worth working for is 100% Rotary Foundation Sustaining Member Club. And then the 3 top per capita clubs giving to the annual fund in the district are also awarded an award. So these are important for the clubs to see that, yes, their club is doing well and their club is participating, and it's something you can give out at foundation dinners or sometimes at district conference. These awards are given. Another type of award is through the presidential citation or governor's citation. And although the presidential citation and the governor's citation usually has a lot of different categories that they recognize clubs for, one of them is foundation giving. And each year these are different. It may be you just want to increase the, it may be, typically you'll have several different categories and you'll have to meet 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4. And these are categories such as increase the number of benefactors in your club by 1, or increase the amount of donation to the annual fund, things like that. So it's important to also remember that the clubs can be awarded recognition, and it's worth working towards those recognitions. Let me turn over again to Nancy to talk about some of the things you need to educate your members about.
I've listed here various things that are important for members to know about, because we find that member frustration or lack of understanding usually equals lower level of giving. It's important that everyone understands that the Rotary Foundation is our international foundation. It's not the club's local foundation. Only contributions to the Rotary Foundation's annual fund provide funds for both Rotary and the district to offer district and global grants to assist clubs with their projects. So you can see that ongoing donations are needed to sustain our foundation. Donations to the annual fund are invested for 3 years and then become available to grants. So usually 100% of your donation actually ends up being used for a project. Administrative costs are usually covered with the interest on those investments. In case of economic downturns, there have been times when it hasn't been quite that, but usually it's very close to 100% of the money goes out into projects. It's important to encourage all members to have an account in My Rotary so they can check on their own donations, as I mentioned earlier. But let's make sure that all your club members understand these important points. Okay, Jim, let's go to the next one. You should be a valuable resource in your club. You need to be both the cheerleader and the facilitator. Confusion is avoided if members sign up for automatic donations to the Rotary Foundation from a credit card, but there are the other ways to also make the cash contributions. If the club collects, make sure members understand the difference between the local foundation and the Rotary Foundation so that the money goes where they want it to go. Remind club members that contributions to the Rotary Foundation are important, so we have funds for grants which allow clubs to leverage their funds and assist with projects. November is a great time to have a program about the Rotary Foundation because that's Foundation Month. Then in the spring, that's the time to identify possible grant projects so you can get your club members excited and planning for a project that they might do and apply for a grant. We try to focus on getting the last of our donations sent into the Rotary Foundation in May so that the club's donations don't get kind of tied up at the end of the year crush. Always remember to ask for clarification or help when you need it because there are district committee members ready to assist you with any question or any project that you might need. Okay, Jim, next. One of the important things for giving to the Rotary Foundation is goal setting. We find that if clubs don't set goals, they probably aren't going to get there. And the goal process is different in various clubs. It could be a club or board activity, or sometimes the president-elect does it alone, usually when they're headed to pets because a goal is due before the year starts. And these goal numbers shouldn't be just pulled out of the air. We've reviewed the various reports, and those need to be used to help identify reasonable goals that show progress each year. The per capita information on that club fundraising analysis graph report that I showed you will help with that. It's also important to remember that the district has a $50 per capita average donation to the annual fund for district and global grants, not the new centennial grants, however. So that's an important goal to keep in mind. President-elects also have to put these goals into Rotary Club Central, which is on the RI website, and there is a tab for the foundation. It would be important for you to make yourself familiar with Rotary Club Central on the RI website so you can see what information is there, and you can also see how to monitor. There are also tabs for membership and activity goals, so a club could actually put all kinds of goals in there and monitor the progress throughout the year, and all members of the club can actually get on there and see that. But be sure to remember to remind, well, first of all, to announce to the club what the goals are that have been set for the Rotary year, and then to remind them regularly throughout the Rotary year. Both the goals and the progress toward meeting goals are important and need to be brought to everyone's attention regularly so you don't lose track and run out of time. Okay, next. The last thing that I'm going to talk about today is that you also are going to be the contact point for grant information. Every club needs to make sure that we have somebody who gets that information. Presidents get overrun with information, and a piece of information about grants might get lost. So we need that contact person to make sure that they get the information. Grants can be intimidating if no one knows about them, so someone in the club needs to be that point person and look at the various documents and resources that are available. On the slide, you'll see 3 things that you need to look at. These are important documents and guidelines for grants, and your familiarity with that will save untold wasted hours in talking about projects and applying for grants. Okay, next. There are lots of resources available on the website, and Jim has the actual websites listed on the next slide, but go particularly to our district website and look at the grant information, read through the documents, and just get an idea of the kinds of information that's there so your club avoids wasting time on applications. Then remember that district meetings usually have 1 or more sessions or breakouts on grants, and this is a place where you can get some valuable information. You can share information, you can ask questions, learn how other clubs did things, how they solve some problems, maybe some of their good ideas, and of course networking. You can also find partners for projects at these district meetings, so it's real important that someone attend these workshops at the various district meetings. You don't need to be an expert, but you should know enough to help your club identify projects that would be appropriate for a grant. And then you need to talk with your district grants committee representative and ask for information and assistance as you need it. Every club has an assigned district grants committee member who will assist you from the thinking about a project through the application and through the final report. So get to know who this person is, discuss your projects and your grants with them, and get assistance wherever needed. Okay, Jim, thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. I just wanted to end up with the resources that you have available to you. Nancy mentioned that there's a district foundation committee that can help you with all kinds of district grants and global grants. But in addition to the district grants committee members, there are also district foundation committee members, and they can also help you with other foundation activities such as donation questions, questions about the forms that you don't have. So, you know, the point here is that you don't have to know all these answers. The more you know, the better, of course, but you can always go to the next level, which is either if it's about a grant, you can go to the district foundation grants committee. If it's about other type of foundation question, you can go to your foundation committee representative. And when they don't have the answers, they usually come to the district Rotary Foundation chair. And when we don't have the answers, we go up to the Rotary Foundation representative. So we can find answers to the questions, whether we know them right off the top of our head or not, which is not necessarily the case all the time. But we will find the answers to the questions. So please ask, and we'll be responding as quickly as we can, and usually that's pretty fast. One new thing we're going to do this year, we have a member of Rotary Club in Jackson Hole that has volunteered to create a foundation chair website. This will be online on July 1st, and that'll have all kinds of information for foundation chairs. It'll have discussion groups where you can have discussions with other foundation chairs in the district. It'll have foundation information specifically, places where you can ask questions about things of other foundation chair members, and a way to share best practices. I think that's maybe one of the main things, because people will try things and they'll work and they can put them on this website, and then it'll be easy for you to see what other people are doing that have been successful. So, of course, the district website is the main place for the information about the foundation, where all the trainings are located. This training will be posted on the district website. Training on district grants, qualification training, all of that is available from the district website. The other thing on the district website that's important to see are timelines for when things have to be turned in, or just timelines for when things are going to happen. And of course, the Rotary International website is loaded with a ton of information, tutorials, they have webinars and so forth. So that is also a great source of information. And I think it'd be definitely worth going there to see what's happening periodically, because there's always new information going on there. So again, thank you very much for participating in this seminar. I hope this is useful information. And one of the main reasons why we've recorded this and putting it on the district website is so that if you don't remember everything from this first time you listen to it, you may remember that, oh yes, there is information about the donation form on there, and these slides will be posted, so you can go look at the slides, or you can listen to the recording once again. So please feel free to use these resources, and good luck with all of your foundation activities. Thank you for listening.